All right. Okay. Everybody, let's settle down. Get going with this voting session, work session. We're going to start with Senate Bill 376, Maryland Nonprofit Development Center, the Nimble account funding.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, the Nimble program was created in 2017. As initially, basically what it does in order to fund it is it requires up to 5% of revenues that would otherwise go to the small minority and women-owned business associations, and instead sweeps any amount into the Nimble account. What the account does is it provides up to $25,000 in short-term loans for businesses that perhaps have already received a government contract, but just there's a timing delay in when they get the funds. You have a reprint on your desk. What the bill is attempting to do is to basically make it mandate 5%, which equates to $850,000. As enacted, it said up to, which of course the interpretation of that is $0 would satisfy that mandate. It has been getting funding, and according to Commerce, it has been providing loans according to need. This bill would, like I said, make it a mandate. The amendment before you is from discussions with the chair to instead change the mandate to 2%, which equates to $340,000. Leaving room for growth, and the department has been marketing the program, so they expect there to be some growth.
So do people know this program? Okay.
Well,
so,
they should now.
No, I wasn't. I'm sorry. That wasn't directed to you. Erica.
Oh, sorry.
That was to the members.
You say you know it, you got to give it up.
Senator Griffith? Senator Griffith, what do you know about this program? I mean, it seems like a good thing and a reasonable thing, but I can't say that I have any real knowledge of it, so I wanted to really just throw it out there. The one thing that, as Erica pointed out, if we do this, I've suggested that we cut considerably the amount of money dedicated to it, but still give it a little room to grow from where it is right now, which I think, what was it, last year was 180?
187 for the last 2 years, well, including fiscal 22 and 21. That's the highest it's been since its inception.
Okay. Yes, Senator?
How much demand has there been? I mean, how many folks have they turned down?
So since the inception, again, 15 loans in total have been approved.
But how many have applied?
I didn't hear that question.
How many have applied?
How many have applied? How many did they turn down?
They haven't. They've been able to provide loans to any eligible
but they just,
interested parties.
As I think I understand the situation is that they just began marketing it.
Gotcha.
And so there's an expectation
It'll grow.
that they may have the capacity for up to $350,000. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's what their testimony indicated.
Okay. Senator Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple quick questions. The small minority and women-owned businesses account, that comes out of the casino funding, is that correct?
Correct.
And we, over the years, have increased that. Is that also correct? That the amount that comes from casino into that account?
That I don't know the history of that. It's been coming in at 17 million.
I think we increased the percent a couple of years ago. I might be wrong, but I think so. So where does this money, this $187,000, come from now to that program?
It's a percentage.
It's been appropriated at 187,000 in theory, coming from small minority women-owned business account. It sweeps it. The law provides that it would sweep it out of the account and into this account.
Well, I'm just concerned that we take more out of the other account, which we had, as you know, Mr. Chairman, I think a big spat last year when we looked at holding them steady, and one bill we had in there, would have kept them from going up in that account. So I just throw that out for.
I think the money would still be going into the small minority business at the same rate. This would just be a side use. Is that correct? A sub-use?
No, yes, it is a sub-use, but therefore it wouldn't be available. It would be reducing what's available for the small minority-owned business account. Because it literally, the way that this works is literally, it says, from the amount paid to the small minority women-owned business account up to, in this amendment, 2% of that into the Nimble account.
So effectively, just so we understand, if this amendment would go forward, is about $100,000 more for this program.
A total of $340,000.
Right.
Yes,
but 100
starting in '23.
100 and something thousand more than, if that was your concern, the money being the diversion issue from, I guess, the potential diversion from the 8 fund managers. We're talking about 100 to maybe 150 that would be in addition for this particular program that wouldn't fall into that program. Make sense? Senator Griffith.
Yeah, and I think Senator Edwards got at much of what I was going to ask, and that is basically this bill is moving from a posture program that was up to and not, that had a up to or a ceiling of 5%, and now creating a floor of 2%. And I absolutely, as a, I work with nonprofits, I work for nonprofits, and I used to have a nonprofit, and if this program had existed back then, I might still have one, because I won some contracts with the county, but I actually had to forward fund them out of personal resources until the payments came through. So I get the intent. I just struggle, like my colleague, with taking funds from a program that is already, when you talk about turning down people or not being able to award people who request funds, that's kind of the struggle. And even though the amount sounds small, it would be hard for me to defend taking money from the Small Minority Women-Owned Business Fund for any other purpose when I know how many folks they're turning down. So I wish we had another funding source for this, because I think it's an important program.
Okay. Senator Young.
Well, the thing I like about this type of programs, and I have a couple of questions. How long has this program been in existence?
The bill initially passed in 2017.
The loans that have been made, what kind of terms are they made on in terms of years payback, and are they paying back?
I can hear that. If you could talk directly into the microphone.
I'm sorry. What kind of terms are the loans made on? How many, see it's a bridge loan, but how long is the bridge loan for? And have people been paying back?
I don't think they can hear you still, Senator. I mean, if you can pull it even closer.
What I was asking is, what kind of terms, year-wise, are these loans made for? And are they being paid back?
I don't know the answer to your first question. The only information I have is that they are for short-term purposes. I do have some information that so far, let me see if I can get the exact wording. Department has indicated that they have been, So 15 loans have been approved since 2017 for a total of $339,000. 10 of those have been repaid for a total of $215,000. But I don't know how long they have. I don't have details on exactly what the terms are, which I can certainly get for you.
Well, I guess what I was getting to is if they're set up at a certain amount and the money keeps going back in the fund, we can keep making the loans without having to raise the cap a whole lot higher. should be some balance where enough's coming back every year to make new ones, and that we're not putting new money into the program.
Senator Salling?
Yes, thank you. I'm just feeding off with some of the other senators were saying about taking away from one and giving to another. Have we been able to meet the need that for the minorities and the businesses that with this 2017 bill? And are we putting more into this to help not just this one, but the one where this bill applies to? Does that make sense?
So for the first part of your question, the influx of VLT revenues into the small minority women took a while to get going. In fact, there was a number of years ago where you guys, through the BRFA, shifted some money because there was a balance that kept building and building and building. My understanding is that they have gotten better at getting the money out the door. I don't know if it's 100% of the better. It's been a process. Your second part of your question, I do not know the answer to that one.
Okay, because I asked that because I agree with our other senators. I just don't want to put something else out there that would take away from a program that's already in existence and not having the opportunity to fulfill those. That's all. I mean, if we had, again, I agree, if we had other means or ways to fulfill this, that would be great, but that's just my concern. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let me just jump in real quick for a second. I know that a bunch of you have questions, but Erica, could you just say what was the requirement of the program right now?
In terms of money,
Yes,
0, up to, so it could be 0.
but up to what?
Up to 5%, which is 850,000. There is also a cap on the total fund balance that can accrue in the Nimble account, and if it exceeds 1 million, then anything in the excess of 1 million would automatically get swept back into the small minority women-owned business account.
So right now, this fund can get up to this $1 million, right?
Correct.
Okay. So we passed a bill that allowed that. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to get to the point of what was the base level, because people seem to be concerned about taking away from the fund, but the fund already has, the administration already has the ability to take away from the fund up to $1 million. So far, they've only been taking 187 a year, rough on average. Okay. Senator King.
So if we did nothing, just left it the way it is, it's still going to function fine. It just wouldn't be adding more money to it, correct?
In theory, the only thing that by assuming it would all be up to what a governor chose to fund it for. Thus far, the funding has been sufficient. The department is commenting that given their marketing efforts, there could be more. The governor currently can do, up to 5%, so there is room to grow up to $1 million. So it really all depends on the governor.
So other than this up to, which was the law before, is the law.
Is the law, yep.
Correct. What else does this bill do, if anything? It extends the program, right? No?
Nope, it does nothing else.
Senator.
Thank you. So the governor put in how much when? In what fiscal year for this?
Okay. So 2018 was the first, and it was almost 90,000.
Okay.
The next year in 19, it was 150, then 125. And the current fiscal 21 working budget, as well as the fiscal 22 allowance, both have 187,500.
So this is kind of a question, rhetorical question maybe, but if the department feels they need more money, why didn't they get more money in the governor's budget? I don't know if anybody has any insight into that, but.
I'm not sure that the department, the conversations I had, they didn't say that they feel they need more money. They just said that, if more money was to be allocated, they think, given the marketing efforts, perhaps up to 300 or 350 could be a reasonable growth, but
And to pick up on Senator Young's point, because this is a revolving fund, the actual amount of money capable of being loaned is larger than the amount of money they put in the budget each year, right? Because they're not taking the repayments back into the general fund, are they?
yeah, the fund balance can build up to $1 million.
So what is the fund balance now?
That's a good question. I did not ask that question, I don't think. Let me look at my notes here. I do actually have the fund balance. It looks like they've been running a fund balance of about 40,000 from year to year.
And that's because they've been paid back and they keep loaning out.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I understand. Okay,
10 out of the 15 have been paid back.
gotcha. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Senator Peters, because I can never tell when you're on or not. We got to figure out how to get, I can never see you. There's so much equipment over there. You're not on?
No, this is.
Oh, you're kidding. Senator Zucker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So, Erica, maybe I'm just confused, but so this bill links and I could be totally wrong, but this bill links for the first time the small minority and women-owned businesses account to this Nimble account. Is that correct?
It was linked back in 2007.
Okay,
17.
so it's already linked. Okay.
There's already a link in law, yes.
Okay. So it's already linked, but we can easily just add money to the Nimble account without impacting the money that would be going to the small minority-owned businesses. Right?
All this bill does is it changes the existing link. It would change it from up to 5%, which could be $0, to an actual, I'll call it an actual mandate of a specific dollar amount.
Okay.
Can I just follow up on that? So on line 31, the for fiscal year 2021 up to 5.
Yep,
That's not a mandate.
correct.
Was that the language that was added by the sponsor?
That's intended because whenever you change something from a non-mandate to a mandate, if you're in a current year, you generally leave that alone. So line 31 is current law for fiscal 21, which we're, nearly done with. So that generally wouldn't be changed.
Where's of this item, the following amounts not to exceed 1 million. So it's really, the real strength of this is line 27 and 28, where you're getting rid of up to 5%, and you're basically saying the amounts not to exceed 1 million.
Correct. Yep, it's the linkage between line 27, 28, and 32. Because 32 does not have the up to language in it, it turns it into an actual calculated amount. Of course, the one caveat being this is saying for fiscal 22, any mandate would actually not take effect until 23.
Senator Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of the answers that have come from the previous questions have helped a lot in terms of just getting the history of repayment and the use, but so basically this is going from, as I said, a ceiling of 5%, which is not scored as a mandate because it says up to a floor of 2%, which is scored as a mandate because it's requiring an annual allocation out of the fund.
Correct. Now, the sponsor wanted 5%.
Oh, right. Okay, right.
But I've suggested
Two.
if we're going to actually create a mandate of a certain level, I don't want to let it go up to 5% because that was $800,000.
Right,
I didn't want to create a mandate of that magnitude.
And just understanding this process, Erica, so for example, if there's loans made out of this fund to nonprofits to advance their grants that they have, and they repay them, like the 10 who repaid them, does that reduce the allocation? Like, is the fund staying at 2%? Does it reduce the allocation based on what's left in that, what is sort of like sounding like a revolving loan, kind of?
Yeah, it is essentially a revolving loan. It doesn't come into play. They can build a balance up to $1 million. So there's no year-to-year reduction of the annual allocation until it reaches $1 million, and then anything in excess is swept back into the small minority.
Interesting, because I think if it was going to be maintained at that 2%, you know, that might, then you're not keep going back to the kitty, but even at that, it's a predictable amount. So I'm trying to get there with you, Mr. Chairman.
Look, I think we're just working through this.
Trying to make a bill? Yeah, better.
Yeah, we're just working through this. I mean, I think it's what we the body over time created allows for something a lot more,
Right, understood.
and but not clear what the lot more is. And what this is trying to say is they want to know exactly that that's going to happen. And if something's going to happen, that lot more, I want that lot more to be a little less. If that makes sense.
It does.
One other little nuance that's in the fiscal note is the department indicated that if it went to the full 850, they would likely, and assuming that the activity built up to meet that level, they've estimated they would need an additional PIN. In my conversations, if the program stays kind of smaller, they wouldn't need that. They've been running it with an existing personnel.
This is a job creator bill, okay.
Does everybody want to think about this? Are we ready to go? What do we want to do?
Think about it and probably not even do it.
Well, do it. I mean, it exists. Remember.
Yeah, but if we don't do anything, it'll still exist, right?
That is correct.
Without extra money.
No, without a mandate, but with the ability to go up to
Yeah.
$800,000. That's sort of just a trade-off thing. It's how you feel about it. Senator Young?
I would go with your suggestion because I think it appears there hasn't been a greater need yet for what's there, and yours lets it go up a little. And if the program works that well, we can always look at it again in the future. So I think moving it gradually is an appropriate way to go.
Senator?
And also move.
No, sorry, I'm sorry.
What's that? Oh, sorry. Senator Edwards.
Just so I'm clear, which sometimes take a while, but you're saying, look at line 31. So what we're saying here, that stays in because it's not bracketed out of there for fiscal year 2021 up to 5%. Is that existing law?
Yes, that's existing law.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, if I understand what you're doing with 2, it says,
Well, I'm modifying what the sponsor did with 2. The
So-
sponsor had 5% in there.
oh, I see that, so why is the 5%? Because we're in 2021? We're in fiscal year 2021, right?
So they couldn't change the allocation.
Yeah, we're in fiscal
No.
2021.
I'll just,
Actually, shouldn't that be 23?
I'm just trying to figure out here which,
So in line 32, some bills sometimes come in drafted for the year that you're working on the budget, which is fiscal 22. Legally speaking, that does not function as a mandate, and it won't function as a mandate until fiscal 23.
Right.
You can see in the amendment on your desk as well, and this one is coming from me, to say for fiscal 2022 and each fiscal year thereafter, just to make sure it's crystal clear. That's what was intent. It just follows kind of the boilerplate standard of how we draft these things.
okay, the final part of my question is, then, am I correct then, they can't exceed, even at that, they cannot exceed $1 million?
The
If they
fund
hit-
cannot exceed $1 million. I
Even
will
if you
just
had-
point out that even if it says, even if you left it as up to, a governor can always put in more. The General Assembly is unable to cap amounts that negates the governor's budgeting authority. However, the $1 million cap in the fund balance is how the General Assembly would be able to manage that, and did in 2017.
So that's what I'm getting at here. If you use 2% instead of the 5%, then you cap it at $1 million. If that 2% builds it up to that, the fund balance capped at $1 million. Is that correct?
If you mandate the 2%, then that would have to show up in the budget bill every single year. And only until the fund balance reaches $1 million does anything in excess of that go back to the small minority women-owned business account.
At least it caps it somehow.
I'm feeling a little bit uncertainty still in the room. Let's just, and I know, gentlemen, I think you were getting ready to make a motion, but if we wouldn't mind, let's just hold it. We're going to be voting again on Friday, so let's just think it through. People have questions, bring them to Erica or me, but mostly to Erica.
You guys know where I am, which is
Okay.
my house. So,
All right. So we're holding that one for now. All right. 591, Bureau of Revenue Estimates.
Senate Bill 591 deals with the Bureau of Revenue Estimates. It's expanding an existing tax incident study that the Bureau must submit to the Governor and General Assembly on major taxes and how they affect taxpayers. It's expanding it to include toll charges, and then it also specifies what the major taxes are that the report should include. So it delineates the taxes to be the individual income tax, the motor fuel tax, the real property tax, and the sales and use tax. The sponsor also submitted an amendment. The amendment would require that any of the governmental units that maintain the data that's needed to produce this report should promptly provide the report to the Bureau when the Bureau requests it, and otherwise requires those entities to cooperate with the Bureau as they're trying to produce this report. So it's expanding the scope of an existing study.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Don't be too excited, Mr. Sponsor. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous with Senator McCray excused. With the amendment, yeah. We'll just say, right? Everybody good with that? Good. All right, so Senator Zucker, you'll have that. These are going to be tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. These bills, as well as some other ones that we did, I think, last week, are going to be on for tomorrow. So remember what you were assigned. Okay, 593.
at 593, I believe you heard this just last week. The testimony on this one explained it as an audit of OLA found that there was a discrepancy in the calculation of the homeowner's tax credit for some people in relation to other tax credits that those individuals may have been getting. Just as a reminder, the homeowner's tax credit is the program that, depending on your income, it basically caps the share of your income that you would have to spend on property taxes. So it's very income dependent in calculating what the value of that credit would be. So what the bill would do is, for the future, you have a reprint on your desk as well with one minor amendment, but on page 2, lines 12 through 14, it clarifies that in looking at what the total real property tax credit is, or tax amount is, that it wouldn't include other property tax credits. The result of the audit showed that people had essentially been overpaying taxes. A smaller credit was given than what they should have gotten. And then Section 2 of the bill kind of gets at the meat of it, and for 3 years, it does a 3-year look back to basically do a refund for any calculation that led to a smaller credit. The amendment that you have, my understanding is that came from the department itself, just to clarify and make sure that any adjustments are particular to the homeowner's property tax credit and not accidental. I think the way it was phrased before was a little overly broad, perhaps, and could have swept in other tax credits. So what this special language would do here, the special section, basically for fiscal year 22, or is it 23? Basically, the comptroller has to pay the refund in 1 year, and then the bill sets up for fiscal years 23 through 28 a repayment of general funds back into the account where the refund came from over 6 years. So 1/6 of the refund amount would be paid back over a number of years.
Where it came from, meaning where?
So the payment has to come from the local reserve account. That's the account where it's the account that the comptroller uses as, and you guys have dealt with bills before that pay into and out of it, particularly the last time I believe was the Wynn case, the one where the local income tax revenues go and they can kind of fluctuate just because the timing of when money, goes into the account and then gets transferred to the actual locals can vary. So that is the pot from which these funds come out of initially, and then where the general funds get paid back into.
And what was the fiscal note on this?
So the fiscal note estimates a total 3-year, since it's a 3-year look back, 11.4 million. It does say that there's, on page 3 of the fiscal note, it does say it's a potential range of 9.6 and 13.2 million.
All right, so these taxpayers are getting the money back immediately, yes? And then the local income tax fund is being used then to go where?
So that is the account from which the refund comes.
At the beginning, okay.
At the beginning, and then with the 6-year payback provisions in the bill, that is where the general funds would be put back into.
Ah, okay. So they're general funds that need to come back in over 6 years.
Yeah, so ideally in
So
6
about $2
years,
million
the local
a year.
reserve account would be held harmless.
So about $2 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions? Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I trust the wisdom of the committee, but it'd be nice to figure out something, given that these residents have been shortchanged for the last 15 years, that, this is money that they're owed, it's predominantly really Montgomery County and Baltimore City. That's why all the senators are on it. But it'd be nice to try to do something for these homeowners that were shortchanged for this long time period. Obviously, we're not reimbursing them for the past 15 years, but we're trying to make right at least for the 3 years. And the reason why we did the 3 years is that's the look back that the comptroller usually uses on taxes.
And how did you come up with the 6 years?
So the 6 years we worked with the House sponsors and the House just to figure out a reasonable way to use general funds to pay back the local reserve account without it being too much of a stretch on the general fund. So we try to stretch it out just to be, just to have less impact on the general fund.
I mean, the reason that I ask, and I think that's the right approach. Of question is, why not stretch it out even further, given the size of the fund and the fact that we're always looking at the fund as a mechanism to solve problems. That's the only thing that's occurred to me.
So moved.
Senator Griffith.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask, this isn't, and it's not an issue at all with the cash flow because we're already looking at those peaks and valleys and would be aware of any issues before. So that's not a problem because
I
there's.
mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
there's
I think
a
it's
bunch of
de
money.
minimis to the fund.
Correct. Okay.
I mean, from my perspective, why don't we stretch it out, so it's $500,000 a year, something, to, just that we're doing it, but we can do it over, how many, we're six gives us, would be 2, 12, 1, I don't know, I think it's almost sort of a, it almost in some ways doesn't matter, from my opinion. I don't know what other people are thinking about.
I second that.
How you'd stretch it out. I mean, I almost think you could stretch it out 20 years. Well, I mean, the question is, why do we have to backfill that fund? And when this year alone, we were looking at taking out $100 million out of that fund. It just doesn't seem. Yep, Senator Rosenpep.
I would ask the sponsor of the bill to make a motion on what we do.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, but I mean, look, our goal, and as you know, my goal as we go through all of these bills, even like we did on the last one, is to minimize the impact on the general fund. And so, do I like a $2 million hit every year to the general fund when it could be a lot lower? Right.
That's what I'm saying.
You want him to give a number, right?
Yes, that's what I want to do.
All right. He looks like he's texting.
No. I'm a budget guy, but I need a calculator.
Right.
I mean, why don't you want to extend it for 15 years?
Second.
And that way, that's the same kind of litmus test we use for the capital budget, although it's totally different, but that's just the thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah. I mean, again, it could be almost anything. Senator Eckert.
What does that come out per year? And what's the hit?
So what do we?
Probably 800,000.
I mean, 10 years would be, 1.4, so.
All right, it's about 750.
15 should be about 750.
Yep.
So, and let me make sure I'm clear about this. Is it going to be repaid or not?
Yes.
It is.
So that's what we're trying to figure out is
And
how long it would.
what's the rate of repayment then?
Senator, go ahead. I couldn't hear you.
What is the rate of repayment?
So the thought is that we would be splitting up the total payment into how many. So, say we did 15 years, we'd be repaying $750,000 a year from the general fund to the local reserve account, and it would be paid back over 15 years.
Okay, so we would provide $750 to those citizens who were aggrieved.
Well,
and then out of the reserve fund, and we would pay it back out of the capital. Out of the operating general fund.
Those are all good questions. So I think the intent of the bill and how it's set up would be the homeowners who were shortchanged would get who would get repayment immediately for what they were shortchanged from, the total amount, and from the local reserve account, because we have the money in there. And then the state, out of the general fund, would spend, we threw out the year, 15 years. Over the next 15 years, that fund would be, the local reserve account would be replenished from the money that was paid in that one-time expenditure.
So is the local reserve account able to absorb all of these hits on it?
More than enough.
What is in there now?
I don't know what's in there now. I know in the past it's gone up several $100 million. It's almost because there's so much fluctuation, it's a point in time kind of a question.
It's a
but
cash
it certainly
flow
has
account.
to, throughout the year, several hundred
Money
million
coming in and
can
out.
be in it.
Right.
Yeah, I just wouldn't, I guess my concern is I know we had a chart on that, I think, last year to see when the low point was and when the high points are. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure that in my mind to know how far we can draw it down. As long as we're paying it back, that's good, but I wouldn't want any of the counties to be hit by it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the
Thank
the
you.
counties, thank you, no, and the counties, we work with the counties on it. There's no negative impact to them. As a matter of fact, this is helping their homeowners. And I know we were all busy during the hearing, but as you may remember, Michael Sanderson came in virtually, personally, to testify in support of it.
Yes. So, I mean, like I said, we had taken, at one point, ultimately, we didn't use it because the way we reconfigured with the house, that $100 million, we were just going to take it right out. Now, we had a study associated with that, and I'm guessing that study didn't make it into the final relief bill. Is that accurate, or did that still stay in there? Do we know? Yeah,
I don't know.
remember.
There was a study in the relief bill that you just passed on the local reserve account.
Yes.
The committee adopted an amendment that I proposed the morning of the voting session. Matt, you remember that? Do we know, we don't know if that stayed in?
I believe it stayed in.
It did, because we didn't use the money. I don't,
But we still want, yeah, I don't know that the study was tied to the money.
I have my computer in front of me, I believe it stayed in.
It's kind of,
Because the House did that grant program.
if it didn't stay in, can we
Oh,
put it
right,
in this
right.
one?
Right. What's that?
If it didn't stay in, can we put it in this one?
Sure. Yeah. Yep. How are we feeling about this?
I seconded his motion.
Oh, you did? I apologize.
That's okay.
All right, so this would be, yes, Senator Ecker?
I would just like to say, I think any of our counties, if they had been shortchanged, would want to have that corrected. And so for that reason, I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah, I don't think this is about the county being shortchanged. This is
It's
about
the
citizens.
citizens in the county, but I
Absolutely.
would think people would want to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
We've done this before,
Absolutely.
and we've bailed other groups. That's not the best word, but I know we have done that for other departments, right?
Corrected past
Thank you.
errors.
Rarely happens in this body.
Right, right. Okay. So the amendment is to change it to a 15-year payout. All those in favor? Payback, excuse me. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, on the bill, as amended.
Favorable.
All those in favor on the bill? Unanimous again. Very good. Senator Zucker, you'll have that one too.
You get a lot of bills, Sucker.
606, correctional officers.
606, this is a pension bill, came out from the subcommittee. We have a local letter. Basically, it's identical to legislation you did a few years ago for Queen Anne's. It allows the Kent County Detention Center officers to be moved into corps. It's a local bill, so it's going to be dependent on Kent County working with the system to make that move as a PGU.
Looks like the chair of the pension subcommittee loves it.
Second.
All right. All's in favor? Unanimous? How about Senator Quarterman? All right, 641.
641, this is a joint committee on pensions bill, came out from the subcommittee. The current law requires the system to have bonds in place for fiduciaries, and that's not a product that's available for them as a public plan on the system. So what they've been doing is using insurance policies procured through the treasurer's office. So the bill basically is conforming a law to existing practice to authorize that bonding requirement to be satisfied through procuring an insurance policy.
Senator Elfreth?
Move favorable, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All's in favor? Unanimous. Senator Elfreth? Okay, here's a tricky one. 647.
647, this is an emergency bill that would require DBM to submit a report to B&T and appropriations by March 15th of this year regarding COVID relief funding provided under the CARES Act or the December federal legislation, the Consolidated Appropriations Act. Specifies certain information regarding the amount of federal funding distributed to the state and each political subdivision, allocations, funding to state programs and programs administered by political subdivisions, relief funding regarding for which the state can exercise discretion over how the funds are used and the criteria to allocate used to allocate those funds. And then there's also reporting requirements about plans for any future federal funding that is going to be received by the state.
Okay, I'm glad to see that.
An amendment, Senator King's office had forwarded me an amendment that Senator Wallstrecker wanted to be added as a co-sponsor.
Okay. Senator Roosevelt?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to clarify and understand the provision on future federal funding. The next round, the Biden round that's going to come in March, and there may be ones after that. I don't have it in front of me, so how does that work exactly?
Philip?
I mean, as it would come in, they would, to the extent it's in by the time, the report is due, if they know about it, they would have to report on that. But if it comes in after,
Well, that's what I'm trying to say the dates. Maybe I should have made the question clear. What are the dates by which they would have to report this? That's what I'm trying to understand.
March 15th, 2021.
Okay, if it comes in after March 15th, what happens?
Then it wouldn't be subject, but there is a provision that requires them to report on any identified unmet funding needs in response to COVID. This is subsection D of the bill. It's page 2, line 27 onto page 3, and then establish a plan to allocate federal funding received by the state. So I think under that provision, the idea there was to provide some kind of concept of what the plan would be for future funding.
And what is the deadline on those reports?
That would be March 15th.
Okay, I'm trying to get around. What happens if something comes in after March 15th?
Right. So how about we throw in that it's quarterly?
So moved.
Okay. Quarterly until...
Quarterly through for like the next year?
Yeah, till the end of the year, yeah.
The end of next year, not the end of this year.
End of next fiscal year? Or
Oh, yes. Whatever you want.
Right, so like through
I'm just
June
saying, not just
30,
2021.
2022?
Yes.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right, so amended with Waldstreicher. Who else is on this bill?
I think right now it's just Senator King.
Well, does anybody want to be on the bill? All right, so Senator Zucker, Senator Roosevelt, myself, Senator Griffith, we all want to be, Elfreth, all want to be on the bill. Young, good. All right, yeah, Senator Waldstreicher is a leader. Yes, so that's part of the amendment, and then Senator Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I heard that one right, we're going to take at the end of the year, and any money comes in, they got to do this report. Is that what that does? So we mentioned the CARES Act, and there was other monies other than just the CARES Act. Does this include those monies that came from the federal government during the pandemic in this?
This bill is CARES, and then the December Federal Consolidation Appropriations Act, so the CARES, and then the December.
I mean, is it broad, is it broad enough for whatever something else is called in the future, in the next months, to be included? Now that we've extended it out?
Let me take a look.
Chair, I have a request from Rob Caragiola to be added to this bill.
Denied.
It says former senators should be on this bill.
I don't know if we could refine subsection D, so on bottom of page 2 onto page 3, lines 27 down through line 2. You could add, you could alter that to make it a little more clear that, it applies to any federal relief funding passed after this act takes effect.
Well, I mean, it should be everything that already has. And will. Right?
Right. Well, yeah, and I guess actually up towards the top of the bill too. So, in the definition, federal COVID relief funding means it lists those two things. We can also add and.
There's no reason why you can't figure this out, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
There's no reason why you can't figure this out, this concept.
No, yeah. So yeah.
Okay, we don't need to do it right
now. Make sure I got everything. So you want to include specific language, making it clear that any additional federal legislation that's passed after this bill takes effect, and then you want quarterly reports in addition to the March 15th report through the end of the upcoming fiscal 23 for all of the reporting items. And then the sponsor amendments.
Up to fiscal 23, yeah. Senator Edwards.
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming they already have this information available. I would think they're putting the money out. I guess that's what this bill's getting at. The question is, do they have enough time? This is almost March now. Is 15 days enough time to get this done? I guess you slap their hand if you don't get it in time. Yeah. Put that in the bill. I'm just kidding.
Senator Rosenthal.
Yeah, just for clarity, we're talking about all the federal aid that has come to the state related to the crisis. That there are 3 packages called CARES, and then there's the December one. I just want to be sure the wording is broad enough that nothing's left out. So you can figure that out, but that's the concept, I think. Thank you.
Yep. All things that have come and anything that would.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so we've got sponsors. We got sponsors. We've got what we just discussed.
Clarification.
What'd you say?
Clarification for what's covered.
Clarification for what's covered, right? And that's it. That's the amendment.
Move the amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment? Unanimous? The bill.
As amended.
Second. All those in favor? Again, unanimous. All right. Senator King?
I can do it.
I know you can. I'm glad to see that E in there is not the grade, but was for emergency. All right, 678.
All right, 678 is a bill, fairly simple one. The Task Force on Economic Future of Western Maryland has been in existence for this past interim, and this bill would extend it for 6 more months, making their final report from January 1 of this year to October 1 of this year.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Senator Edwards Lucky you. All right. All right, 688, I have to say, I was hoping to have a discussion. This has gotten, it's hard to imagine how everything has gotten twisted and turned around on this in so many ways. At some point in the interim, I thought there was an agreement. Clearly, there's not. But quite frankly, I don't want to take the committee's time right now. There are a couple of proposals out there from the sides. Senator McCray, who has been leading this to try to come to a reasonable solution, unfortunately could not be here with us today. But regardless, I don't know how far I would have gotten anyway. We're going to have some more discussion on this. This is one of those ones where I can say it is what it is right now. So that's a hold on that one. All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bills that'll go to the floor tomorrow with the other ones. And I don't remember how many there were. There were 4 other ones. We'll see. Yeah. Anything else for the good of the committee? Or even the so-so of the committee? All right. Move we adjourn. Thank you. Good job.
All right, Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
I just wanted to let everyone know that because of the floor schedule on Friday, the subcommittee budgets have been moved to 2:30.
I didn't hear that.
Subcommittee 2:30 on Friday because of the Friday floor. Okay? All right. Good job, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.